Hi, I'm Michael Marin. At Holy Name Medical Center, we believe that all citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Holy Name Medical Center in Teaneck, New Jersey. Healing begins here. Bergen Community College. New Jersey Council of County Colleges. Delta Dental of New Jersey. Everyone deserves a healthy smile. Partners for Health Foundation. Partnering to make our communities healthier, better places to live. The Fidelco Group. And by the Russell Berry Foundation. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com. And by New Jersey Family Magazine and NJFamily.com.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this.
You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that. Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
That's a good question. High five.
Welcome to the Tisch WNET studio here in Lincoln Center. It is my pleasure to introduce our good friend Greg Kelly, co-host of Fox 5's Good Day New York. Can be seen what time?
7 to 10 every day.
With your colleague?
Rosanna Scotto. It's a lot of television. We love it, but it's a lot.
You guys are great partners. What's the chemistry?
Chemistry is, I have two best friends in the world. One friend, I need to have another person in the room. We kind of work through we kind of almost performing for the other person. Another person, I know if someone else is there, it disrupts the flow. Rosanna and I are good friends. We need another person there, and that other person is the viewer.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
You guys connected pretty much from the beginning.
Yeah, it just kind of worked.
And it doesn't happen, not only doesn't happen all the time, it doesn't even happen that often in television.
There are a couple of teams that have been around for a while, I hear, that have had some staying power, but we're at this 8, going on 9 years.
Your career has been fascinating. And because we've worked together before, I've gotten to know you over the years, but explain to folks your background growing up. Grew up where?
Suburbs of New York City, Long Island, Garden City, and went to college here in the city, and then after college, I was into the Marine Corps as an officer.
Why?
Well, I had seen my father. I had kind of heard of his experiences. He was a Marine Corps officer out of college and went to Vietnam. And not that I wanted to go to war, but I kind of wanted that adventure. I wanted to experience what he experienced.
So, by the way, Ray Kelly, your dad is actually doing One-on-One with us today. He may even be in this building as we speak, watching this interview.
All right. Well, they'll have a tough act to follow.
Exactly. It was not expected of you to go into the Marines, right?
No, he didn't, wasn't the great Santini, you will do this or anything like that. It really was leadership by example. I wanted to do it. I wanted to have the experience he had. I saw what it gave him, or I saw what it made him, and I wanted to do it too. The transition into broadcasting and news. Yeah, that was fun. It was challenging. I had spent actually 9 years as a pilot. I had a 5-year commitment after flight school. Flight school took about 4 years. So 9 years in, I was looking for something, what's next? I gave some consideration to staying in, maybe joining the FBI, maybe going to law school, airline pilot. Those were the typical things Marine Corps officers did. But I always liked current events. And my brother suggested journalism. And when he did, it was like, I could see myself doing that. But describe it. Your work wasn't on the streets here in New York City. No, I was deploying on aircraft carriers. I was deployed all over the world, really, and spent a lot of time in the desert southwest of the United States. But, we still got newspapers, had access to the internet, and I was always drawn to what was happening in places that I wasn't. And, following the news is kind of a form of escapism, and to do it for a living, that was really intriguing. So I sent resumes all over the country and started with New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, thinking, of course, they would want a fighter pilot in their newsroom. I didn't really hear much back, and then I started working on smaller markets, Odessa, Texas, Montgomery, Alabama, and finally Binghamton, New York hired me as their morning anchor / evening reporter.
Then you came into Fox News.
Fox News, well, I was up state for about a year, a little less, and then I went to New York 1. I covered politics there for a year and a half, and then the war was brewing overseas. This is the fall of 2002, and I started kind of marketing myself as, hey, if something happens, I'm the kind of guy you might like as a news organization to have on your staff.
And since you've been at Fox 5 for how long?
Since 2008, 8 years.
Biggest changes in the industry and the business, Greg?
Phew, that is a tough one. Well, you know what? Actually, the technology of actually presenting news is pretty much the same, although we don't rely on it that much. I am not a social media guy. I consume it, but I don't live on it. I actually am not crazy about what it's done to us. I think we're all distracted. We're all looking down. We're not looking at each other. We've become kind of numb to a lot of things. So I'm not excited about some of the changes.
But more and more people are consuming information this way.
Sure, and you've got to make sure that what you're presenting, what you're putting out there is interesting, is compelling. The idea that someone's just going to watch an 8-minute segment because you have a nice tie on and you got makeup on and it's a relatively interesting person that you might be sitting with, you can't rely on that. You've got to mix it up. You've got to bring all you can because there's so many other things to look at.
And when you and Rosanna are doing that show for all those hours every day, how much of it is a challenge for you when you're just not feeling that energy and you've got to bring it?
We almost always feel the energy. You don't feel the energy before the show or maybe after the show. You crash. But no, it's not an option during the show. One little trick we have that I'll share with you, the teleprompter. We barely ever use it. I find it's almost impossible to think about anything but yourself when you're reading off of that thing. And Donald Trump, like him or not, that's one thing, one of the reasons why he connects with the people he connects with and why he's so compelling on that campaign trail. He doesn't use that thing.
This campaign, by the way, we're doing this, taping this program in May 2016, so it'll be seen for a while after that. Without getting into politics, covering politics, what's it like for you?
What's it like? Well,
You love it?
No, I don't like politics particularly. I was a White House correspondent for 2 years. I lived in the Beltway. I was something of a political junkie, but I kind of lost my taste for it. And I think it's helped me as a talk show host because most people don't find politics, the everyday who raised how much money last quarter, that kind of stuff, that interesting. People where I used to live in Washington, D.C., that community, they eat that stuff up. But I don't, and most of my viewers don't either.
What part do you find interesting? What are the most compelling aspects of your work do you really, really get into?
When it rises to the level that, hey, people are talking about it, it's a natural kind of, it hits a level where you understand that people are going to talk about it. We come in the morning, did you see what he did this time? You know what I mean? Just when regular people, of which I consider myself a regular person, when we're talking about it, when we're thinking about it, that's when we want to put it on TV.
We got this clip. Can we show a clip of the show real quick?
Okay.
I think this is a spoof of Trump. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
You doing it. Let's go to it.
2 years ago, you did a very smart thing. You elected me president. And I'm here to say, you're welcome. Every day, people come up to me. This is about amazing things. Tonight, I will tell you about the most amazing thing I've ever done. People ask me all the time, hey, what's the most amazing thing you've ever done? I say, I can figure that out. I went to an Ivy League school. I know from amazing. Stand by. We're going to get to it in a second. Don't rush me. Now, who remembers that woman I beat? That poor woman, Hillary Clinton. Oh, my God. I want to get the kids involved here. You like those viral videos, right? Viral videos? Who doesn't want to go viral? After I beat her, she went totally insane, cuckoo bananas, nut job crazy. I got this email to me, and I have it on my iPad Gizmo.
Only 4 votes!
Well, hold on. I want to be clear. This is Trump after he's elected president?
Well, that was our Halloween episode, and yes, that's October 31st, 2017, and Donald Trump is president. Again, that's our Halloween
It's not a nightmare,
episode.
correct? I just want to clarify.
It depends. Maybe it's your dream come true,
Or
a
it
beautiful
could be
dream, or it could be a nightmare.
Yeah, that's having fun with it.
That's having some fun with it. And by the way, Hillary, 4 votes, it was 4 electoral votes, creamed her in the popular vote. just so you know. That was the next
Tell
line.
everyone again when people can watch you and your talented co-host.
Well,
Rosanna.
that kind of hilarity hopefully starts at about 9 o'clock. But the show itself, 7 to 9, is, from the outside, first glance, it's a standard news show with a healthy commentary and interesting things, hopefully, from your host, Rosanna, and me. But and that stuff at 9 o'clock is more.
It changes up.
Yeah, it's kind of like Wendy Williams / Hoda and the other one, Kathy Lee.
Kathy Lee, yeah.
And
The
a
other
bunch.
one, will you
Just
will
easy,
you
Kathy Lee.
stop?
She's the best.
What time do you get up?
4:05.
Ready to do it. And you work out, you do your thing?
No, I don't work out. No, I've tried. I mean,
You stop.
I dabble in the afternoon, but no, 4:05. It's no, I can't do that.
Check out our friend Greg Kelly, co-host of Fox 5's Good Day New York. He's had an amazing career, and he's still got a lot of work to do. Listen, appreciate you coming in.
Steve, anytime. Thank you.
Tell
All the
our
best.
friends over there we said hello.
Okay.
Stay with us. We're right back after this. Good stuff.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Hi, Steve Adubato. You can hear the chaos behind me. We're at the North Ward Center in Newark, New Jersey. Just finished the Dr. Martin Luther King Legacy Award, which one of the awards was given to your former staffer, Modia Butler, who was leaving to go to the private sector, right?
Yeah, it's my chief of staff. I mean, people look at the mayors and the principals, but usually it's their number ones. The chiefs of staff have the toughest job out there every day. So he's a guy that has just served this city incredibly and then served the state because he was my state director. So he's had a great career in public service. Now he's going off to make some money to send his daughter to college.
You know what's so interesting as we talk about Dr. King, his legacy, so many years after 1968 when he was assassinated. What do you say, Senator, about the state of race relations in our nation right now, and particularly as it relates to a lot of the anti-Muslim rhetoric and, frankly, emotion out there?
Well, we've made extraordinary strides. We have so much to be proud of in terms of the gains and achievements of not only individual African Americans, but African Americans as a whole. But we still live in a society that has a lot more work to do and a lot of deep divisions that we need to heal and bridge. And African Americans, if you look at outcomes in the criminal justice system, blacks are not more likely to use drugs or deal drugs. Actually, the indices are the same for blacks and whites, but they're about 4 times more likely to be arrested for it. So you see these racial disparities in a lot of sectors in our society that show we have more work to do as a community in coming together. And this isn't about advancing African American cause, it's about advancing the ideals of America. Now that said, I really reject discrimination or hate or bias or implicit bias of any type. And we've got to understand that this is a nation that has benefited from all different folks, all different faiths. I mean, we cheer Muslim athletes from Muhammad Ali to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We benefit from Muslim scientists and researchers and business people in terms of the economy we enjoy. We need everybody, and we can't be a country that in any way starts to discriminate against people because of color of skin, race, or because of religion.
But Senator, what do you make of a lot of the anti-Muslim emotion out there, particularly as it relates to the issue of immigration? The fear post-San Bernardino, post-Paris. What do you make of it?
Look, fear is toxic and destructive, and you cannot allow incidences like that to change us and who we are. We are a nation that have been accepting immigrants for generations, and we're better because of it. And not just immigrants from Europe, but immigrants from all around the globe. Not just Christian immigrants, but immigrants from many different faiths. We are better because of our past immigration policies. Let's not let fear change us and who we are. Now, that doesn't mean I'm on the Homeland Security Committee. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be vigilantly doing what we need to do to keep ourselves safe. But I hate the toxicity of fear, and then it turns some into demagogues, others trying to rile up more fear than's necessary. We need to be practical in protecting ourselves, but stay true to our values.
How are we doing dealing with ISIS?
We're dealing with it in a way that has some acknowledgement of strategies working, pulling in partners with Muslim nations, pulling in partners in Europe. We're making some significant grounds. But this idea that this is going to be some kind of easy, quick battle, we're going to win it, they're really misunderstanding the nature of the threat, which is not just into the theater of Iraq and Syria. It's also a global threat, as you see them exporting terror to places as far away as North Africa, to even Europe. This is going to be a long fight where we must stay vigilant, as I said, and we must invest resources into making sure that we ultimately defeat ISIS, not only in the theater that it's in, but the global threat of ISIS.
Senator, let's talk a little bit about people's attitude towards guns. The president, executive order on the issue of guns, didn't want to go through Congress, wasn't confident about going through Congress on that. To what degree do you understand people's feeling right now post, again, San Bernardino, post Paris, and Donald Trump saying if people had guns, fewer people would have died in that situation? Do you understand some people wanting to have guns now?
Look, I don't think that there's a contrast here. We can affirm American Second Amendment rights, but keep the guns out of the better to keep guns out of the hands of terrorists or people that mean harm. You know, most of Americans agree that you shouldn't just be able to walk into this country. You're a foreign national, shouldn't just be able to walk into a gun shop and buy lots of guns. Well, our current laws allow that. If you're suspected of terrorism, you're on the terror watch list. Should you be able to just walk in and buy a gun? If you are a spousal abuser, threaten your spouse. We have a lot of murders in America every year, domestic violence. Should you be able to go out and buy a gun? No. We need reasonable gun safety efforts that allow law-abiding citizens like you and I to assert our Second Amendment rights, but not bad people with bad intent. We've got to do the common sense things. And by the way, most gun owners, over 70% of gun owners, agree with this. This isn't a Republican or Democratic strategy. This is a common sense strategy that the overwhelming majority of Americans, hey, we could do some more things to keep guns out of the hands of bad people.
Let me ask you this about Hillary Clinton. We don't know how things are going to play out as it relates to the email situation. Has she handled it well?
Look, I think that at the end of the day, we're going to get the tests now. By the time this thing airs, we'll be done with New Hampshire, we'll be done with Iowa. I think that she is the front runner, not just in the Democratic field, but in the field altogether, because of her qualifications, because of her experience, because that she's actually accomplished things as a senator, as a head of the State Department, as well as even as First Lady. So I think the voters are going to see her for the totality of who she is. She's made mistakes and she's admitted to them, but the reality is there's really been, not in modern era has it been somebody as qualified as this who's running for office.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We're pleased to be joined by Dr. Larry Norton, scientific advisor at Cure Breast Cancer Foundation. It's very good to see you, Doctor.
Great pleasure to be here.
Tell everyone what this foundation is.
Well, I work at Memorial Sloan-Kettering Cancer Center, and we do a lot of wonderful research. And one of the ideas that turned on my colleague and friend, Andy Abramson, who started this foundation, was the idea that cancer is not just a disease of cancer cells dividing, but also a disease of cancer cells moving around. And with my colleague John Massagay and his laboratory, we found out that cancer cells can actually leave a tumor and come back to the same tumor, but reinvigorate it. And that really changed our whole notion of cancer biology. We're discovering more and more about cancer every day. You know, we've always thought it's a disease of cells just dividing too much, but it's much more than that. And the work has really evolved to where we're understanding that one of the primary things about cancer is it's the relationship of the cancer cell to other cells in its vicinity, white blood cells, blood vessel cells, other kinds of tissues that we find in the tumor. And those relationships turn out to be very important. What really excites me about that is relationships between cells is sometimes easier to target with drugs than abnormalities in the cells themselves. So this is leading into very, very promising areas, not just for diagnosis and prognostication, but also for treatment.
You know, when I was talking to Andy about this, and we were talking about the foundation, the work of the foundation. By the way, the website will be up there. Check it out, important information. One of the things that struck me is that when it comes to cancer research is that, and you've said this as well, is the idea that people look for, Doctor, the one magic bullet, the one thing.
That's a distraction. Actually, that's something I've been fighting against my entire career, where some idea catches the popular imagination and resources and excitement pour into that one idea and ignore everything else. We need a diversified portfolio of ideas. And that is illustrated by what we're doing. We started with the idea of cell mobility, but now it's extended.
Hold on, back up. Cell mobility?
Cell mobility, the fact that cancer cells move. We started with that idea. Cancer is not just cell division, it's also the ability of cancer cells to move around is also critically important, but it's extended into a lot of other areas of cancer biology, such as the relationship between white blood cells and the cancer cells, blood vessel cells, and so on. And it's very important to keep evolving and not just pursuing one idea, but pursuing all the good ideas that we have, because a diversified portfolio of ideas is where real advances happen.
And this one term, help us understand this, self-seeding.
Right.
The self-seeding theory, what does that mean?
Well, that's the original observation that cancer cells can leave the tumor, travel through the blood, and come back to the same tumor. And when they come back reinvigorated. They bring white blood cells with them. They bring blood vessel cells or cells that turn into blood vessels with them. And that reinvigorates the growth of the tumor. And this was not at all expected before, but we demonstrated it, it was published, and many, many other people have observed it, and we're seeing this in human tumors as well. I mean, for example, if you have two tumors in your body and one of them develops cells that are resistant to treatment, those cells can spread to the other tumor and can stop that tumor from responding to treatment. And so there's many opportunities for intervening there so we can keep cells responding to treatment throughout the body by interfering with the ability of cells to move from one spot to the other.
And the foundation is dedicated to this research.
Well, it started with this research. This is an idea that turned Andy on, and so he said, let me see what I could do about raising funds to support this area of research, but it's also everything that derives from this area. For example, we're doing conferences, and we've done one conference in Israel, we're doing another conference in Israel about genetic susceptibility to cancer.
Genetic susceptibility.
Right, and that is that some people are born with a tendency to develop cancer. You've probably heard of BRCA1.
Yes.
BRCA2.
BRCA1.
BRCA1,
right.
yeah. BRCA1, BRCA2 are genes that everybody has, but if you're born with an abnormal one that you inherit from a mother or a father, it gives you a much higher chance of developing breast cancer or ovarian cancer and a few other cancers as well. And so we're having a meeting soon in Haifa that's going to be bringing together world experts to share knowledge about this and to make decisions about how we can screen better for these abnormalities and help individuals. And that extended because, it all started with the self-seeding theory, but the fact is that one of the things that makes these cancers abnormal is not just their cell division, but the fact that they can move around, and that could be tied to their DNA abnormalities. And DNA abnormalities leads us into the area of being born with abnormal DNA, which can predispose to cancer.
And the foundation is working in those areas, bringing people together, having those discussions.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, Doctor. I've always, in anticipation of this question, I wanted to bring something up I've often thought about. Many people will ask the question, particularly because everyone's touched by cancer in one way or another, virtually everyone. When will they find a cure for cancer? I'm not going to ask whether you get tired of it, but is that not even the right question to ask?
Well, I think the right question is, what can I do to lead to that moment? Right. I mean, that's really the right question. Right. First of all, we cure...
More productive question.
We cure many cancers, and indeed most cancers right now with available treatments. Breast cancer, for example, my main area of research, if we diagnose it early and we do all the right things, could be surgery, radiation, drug therapies of various sorts, the cure rate is very high. And that's because we've learned over the years of how to apply those various tools in good ways. Because of research entirely. We're not curing everybody. We're not preventing cancer in everybody. We're preventing cancer in many people also, but we're not doing it in everybody. So we see the end of the tunnel. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and we see it. Now we just got to get there faster. And research is what enables us to do that. You can't do this just by applying existing knowledge. You have to have discovery of new ideas, and then you have to take those discoveries, develop them, and eventually apply them to real people. And all of that takes research support.
Dose density.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means that it refers to the fact that when you have an anti-cancer treatment, it's often better to give a lower dose of treatment more often than a higher dose less often. And the reason why that's an important concept is because it's already led to cures of tens and tens of thousands of people with breast cancer because of its application, along with everything else that we do with early diagnosis of breast cancer in terms of drug therapy. So it's had a huge impact throughout the world in lowering death rates from breast cancer. The simple idea of take a moderate dose of drug and give it every 2 weeks rather than a higher dose every 3 weeks. The important part of that is, of course, the fact that it works. But underneath it is the fact that it's engineering. it's not just having drugs and just using them, it's knowing how to use them. An automobile is not going to get you from here to Chicago unless you know how to steer the car. And we have not developed, I think, adequate tools for knowing how to give our drugs. We're developing better and better drugs, but how to give the drugs better is, I think, a very, very exciting and important area of research.
Let me ask you this. You made a decision a while back to go into this field.
Yes.
Why?
Complicated question.
Give me the PBS version.
The PBS version?
Yeah.
It's a meritorious thing to do. You want to do something in your life that's going to make a big impact, and a lasting impact. You want to save lives. You want to help people. This seemed to me to be a very good place where I could put all of my energies and all of my dedication.
And this foundation helps you do that.
Yeah, we can't do anything without support. It is the best ideas in the world, the most dedicated people, without the support to move forward, are not going to accomplish everything. This foundation and other foundations, other individuals, people who support research are the people that are making a huge difference. And that's the most important message, is we can't just sit by. If you're afraid of breast cancer, support research. If you're afraid of ovarian cancer, support research. The important thing is that we're not going to make advances unless we do these studies, and these studies require resources, and we can't do it alone.
People say, hey, why don't you do it? It's like, what? How can you be a part of it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is something that affects each and every one of us. And if you live long enough, you're going to get cancer. If you have a family and you have people that you love and you have friends, some of them are going to get cancer. We're not going to escape this by just having a perfect life. Research is critical.
Dr. Larry Norton, scientific advisor, Cure Breast Cancer Foundation. I want to thank you very much for joining us here on Public Television.
Thank you.
We learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Holy Name Medical Center in Teaneck, New Jersey, Bergen Community College, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, Delta Dental of New Jersey, Partners for Health Foundation, the Fidelco Group, and by the Russell Berry Foundation. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
My name is Dr. John Rundback. I'm actually the medical director of the Interventional Institute here at Holy Name Medical Center. Peripheral arterial disease actually is extremely common. It's one of the forms of hardening of the artery. As interventional radiologists, we perform minimally invasive image-guided procedure. Generally, the procedures we do are alternatives to what would otherwise be major surgery. Almost 80% of those patients can avoid amputation if they're referred for us for these sort of procedures.
Holy Name Medical Center in Teaneck, New Jersey, 1-877-HOLY-NAME. Healing begins here.